Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something huge, something that's, well, reshaping everything around us.
It really is.
Especially if you're a parent right now trying to figure out how to raise kids in this rapidly changing world.
Absolutely. The ground is shifting beneath our feet, it feels like.
We've got a stack of fascinating sources here, expert interviews, research, different viewpoints, and our goal today, our mission, is pretty critical, I think.
Yeah.
To cut through all the noise about artificial intelligence. What does it actually mean for your life, for you as a parent, for your future, and crucially for the future of your little ones, your newborns, your toddlers?
That's the heart of it, isn't it? The
Yeah.
pace of change is just, well, it's unlike anything we've seen before. Exponential doesn't even quite capture it sometimes.
Right.
So what we want to do is sort of act as guides. We'll look at the sheer speed and scale, the potential disruptions and opportunities for work, for life.
Okay.
We'll also need to grapple with the impacts on how we learn, how we think, maybe even who we think we are.
That sounds big.
It is. And most importantly, we need to pull it all together and ask, what can we actually do? What steps can we, as parents, as humans, realistically consider right now? It's about getting some clarity, some perspective beyond the hype and the fear.
Finding some solid ground. I like that. Okay, let's dive in. The first thing that just jumps out from these sources is the scale, the speed. It's almost hard to grasp.
It really is. Some sources aren't just calling it new tech. They're framing it as something fundamentally different, defining even.
Oh, so?
Well, take KernKlang. They use this phrase, humanity's last invention.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay, last invention. That stops you in your tracks.
It does, doesn't it? The idea is we might be building something called AGI, or eventually ASI, artificial superintelligence, that could become vastly more powerful cognitively than us.
More powerful than humanity itself.
In terms of raw problem-solving, inventions, strategies, potentially, yes. Intelligence has always been the lever, right? Humans used our intelligence to, as KernKlang puts it, break the game of nature. We figured things out, manipulated the environment, built civilization.
Okay.
Now we're potentially creating an intelligence that might not just help us invent, but could take over the process of invention itself. If it becomes smart enough, autonomous enough, why would it need us to invent the next thing?
So it could become the ultimate inventor, leaving us where?
That's the profound question. And it's not just about creating this power, it's about how accessible it's becoming.
Right. I saw the comments from Jensen Huang, NVIDIA's CEO. He calls AI a miracle.
Yeah, because he argues it's completely closed the technology divide. He actually says everybody in the world is now a programmer.
That sounds like hyperbole. Is it?
Well, his point is powerful.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need years learning complex code anymore. You can interact with incredibly advanced AI using natural language. Just talk to it, ask questions, give instructions.
So that huge barrier needing to be a coder is just gone for a lot of things.
Yeah. It's dissolving, yeah. For the first time, Huang says, anyone in a company, regardless of their background, could potentially be a technologist, leveraging this power.
A democratization of tech power.
On a scale we've never seen. And the money pouring in reflects this. Sam Altman at OpenAI talks about an unbelievable exponential curve.
The numbers are just wild. That Stargate project, $500 billion planned.
$500 billion, with giants like OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank already committing $100 billion to start. And it's not just planning. Massive data centers are being built right now. Abilene, Texas, places like that.
Not just Silicon Valley anymore.
No, it's a global AI race. Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, Musk's xAI. They're all building these huge data center empires. The goal, scale computing power, get this, 100,000 times in just a few years.
100,000 times in like 3 or 4 years.
That's the ambition. Think about that kind of leap. It's staggering.
But doesn't that take insane amounts of energy? Electrical power?
Exactly. That's a huge bottleneck. The sources say asking ChatGPT a question uses maybe 10 times the energy of a Google search.
Wow.
Scale that up globally. The demand for power, for water, for cooling. These are becoming major geopolitical issues. It's not just about chips anymore. It's about the physical infrastructure and energy to run them.
Okay, so unprecedented speed, scale, investment, accessibility. But we've had big tech shifts before, right? Printing press, steam engine, internet. Why is this fundamentally different?
That's a great question. The Diary of a CEO source offers a really useful distinction. Think about the tractor.
Okay, farm labor.
Right. The tractor displaced physical work. It was the disruption of muscles. It made human brawn more efficient or unnecessary in certain tasks.
Makes sense.
AI, though, they argue, is the disruption of intelligence. Our core advantage as a species, our cognitive ability, we're building something that could technologically surpass that.
Our defining trait.
Yes. And we're doing it without the built-in safety features of human evolution, shared biology, empathy, consciousness, the need for connection. We're creating potentially superior cognitive capacity without the guardrails that make human society, well, relatively stable.
That does feel unsettling, disrupting the core of us.
It is. And history teaches us something important here, right? The same source points out, we always underestimate world-changing tech.
Cars weren't just faster horses.
Exactly. They reshape cities, society, everything.
Mm-hmm.
If the predictions for AI are already this huge and optimistic, history suggests we're probably still undershooting its real impact. The changes could be way more radical than we can imagine right now.
Okay. Wow. So if it's disrupting intelligence itself, how does that actually translate to our lives, our jobs, the economy, our daily routines?
This is where it gets really complex and honestly pretty confronting, especially for parents thinking about their kids' futures.
Yeah.
You know, historically, jobs had a certain stability, didn't they?
Yeah, you could often follow a path similar to your parents or at least plan a career over decades.
Right. People found a trade, a profession, and it could last a lifetime, more or less. There was a sense of intergenerational stability in work.
My dad was a teacher, his dad was a farmer. Different, but stable paths.
But now, the sources, especially Diary of a CEO, talk about entering a state of hyper-novelty. What jobs exist, what skills pay, what people even do for money, it could all shift radically. Maybe every 2 or 3 years, one source suggests.
Every few years, that's chaotic. How do you plan for that?
It's described as a dangerous situation. How do you guide your kids towards a career when the goalposts are moving that fast? How do you even define future-proof skills anymore?
And we're seeing tremors already, aren't we? Tech layoffs.
Yes. Dad Saves America points out that recent layoffs at Meta, Microsoft, Google aren't just post-COVID adjustments. A big part is the strategic pivot to AI. Roles are becoming redundant, even highly skilled ones.
These software developers.
Over 110,000 globally laid off recently, partly driven by this shift. And Simon Sinek highlights the irony, right? Remember when robots displaced factory workers, the muscle jobs? The advice was reskill, learn to code.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now AI is disrupting knowledge work, coding, finance, law, writing. So Sinek asks, maybe they should reskill, become a plumber, something AI can't easily do.
It's provocative, but it makes you think. This disruption isn't just one sector.
No. And that old question Sinek raises, what happens to the 90 people when a tractor replaces 100? We just don't have a good answer for that with AI, and the scale could be much, much larger.
So widespread displacement is a real worry.
It is. But there's another angle, too. Dad Saves America suggests the key might not be avoiding AI, but learning to work with it.
Ah, the person using AI replaces the person not using AI idea.
That's the common thinking, yeah. The goal shifts. Maybe it's about automating, say, 100% of the technical repetitive parts of your job.
To free you up for
the truly human stuff, the nonlinear thinking, the creative problem solving, judgment calls, empathy, relationship building, things AI, at least for now, struggles with.
using AI to become more human at work, in a way.
Potentially.
Ah.
And the efficiency gains are already staggering. Diary of a CEO talks about AI agents, like one called Replenishment.
Yeah.
That can apparently build software using just purely natural language. No coding needed.
Wait, really? No coding at all? Just describe the app?
That's the claim. They share this story. Building a pocket money app. By just describing, it took 15 minutes. Cost about $1 on a subscription.
15 minutes and $1 versus,
Yeah.
what, weeks and thousands of dollars hiring developers?
Exactly. $5,000 to $10,000 in weeks of work, traditionally, when the cost difference is that huge.
It changes everything. The value of just being able to execute the code plummets. Entire business models vanish. Roles disappear.
Precisely. And it's already happening. Companies are dropping roles because these tools are becoming so capable.
So, beyond jobs, what about the bigger economic picture? Some sources hint at really radical shifts. Sinek mentioned billionaires thinking we'll all have tons of free time.
Yeah, and Peter Diamandis pushes it even further. He talks about a potential post-capitalist society.
Post-capitalist, what does that even mean?
Driven by AI, robotics, nanotech.
Yeah.
The idea is, eventually, money will mean very little.
Okay, my brain just short-circuited. Money meaning very little. How?
The theory, drawing on thinkers like Mo Gaudat or researchers like Demis Hassabis, hinges on driving fundamental costs towards zero. AI optimizes energy. Maybe robots harness solar power effectively. Robots eat sunshine. Energy costs drop.
Okay.
Then automation drives manufacturing and labor costs down. If machines do most of the work, and energy is nearly free, goods and services become incredibly cheap,
Abundant.
leading to radical abundance, where basic needs are easily met for everyone.
That's the utopian vision. Radical abundance. Of course, the sources acknowledge the challenge. Existing systems, people benefiting from scarcity, they'll fight like hell against it.
You think?
But the argument is the technology itself might just make those old systems irrelevant over time. The push toward abundance could be too strong to stop. Wow. Job disruption, hyper-novelty, but also maybe radical abundance. It's a confusing picture, which makes me think, beyond the economy, how is AI hitting us personally? Our minds, how we learn, our identity.
This feels like the deepest level, doesn't it? Especially for parents. On the surface, AI looks like an amazing educational tool. Veritasium talks about it being scaffolding for learning.
Like a super tutor.
Kind of. It can give hints when you're stuck, answer specific questions, generate practice problems, explain things differently. It could be fantastic for filling gaps, if used well.
That sounds great for my kids' homework, but there's a catch.
A big one. Veritasium nails it. AI lets you do the work without doing the work.
Okay, unpack that. Doing the work without doing the work.
Real learning isn't passive. It requires mental effort. Cognitive load, specifically what psychologists call germane cognitive load. That's the brain power you use, thinking about the material, connecting ideas, seeing patterns, wrestling with the problem.
Like figuring out a tough math problem yourself versus just getting the answer.
Exactly. Or like a chess master who doesn't just calculate moves, but sees the board in meaningful chunks, patterns built over years of effortful practice. That deep understanding comes from the struggle, the germane load.
And if AI does that mental heavy lifting for the child,
It bypasses the core learning process. The child gets the output, the essay, the answer, the code, but they haven't built the underlying skill, the mental muscle, the understanding in their own brain. They've outsourced their thinking.
so they're not actually learning how to think, just how to get answers from the machine?
That's the fundamental danger. It undermines the very development of knowledge and skills. How do we ensure our kids build their own minds, not just become dependent on an external one?
This ties into bigger concerns about AI shaping our reality, right? Yuval Noah Harari seems really worried about this.
Deeply worried. He points out, historically, our shared culture myths, religions, money, laws, came from human minds. Humans were the storytellers, the editors of reality.
Makes sense, from tribal myths to newspapers.
Right. But now, algorithms are increasingly the editors. TikTok feeds, Facebook, X, they curate what we see. And crucially, non-human intelligence can now create incredibly convincing stories, images, videos, narratives.
So the source of our culture is shifting from human to algorithm, possibly to alien intelligence.
That's the profound shift Harari sees. Like trust shifting from banks to crypto algorithms. People start trusting the non-human system more. The danger. AI flooding us with persuasive junk, deepfakes, manipulation.
Blurring reality on a massive scale.
Yes, he fears we could get entrapped inside such an alien world of AI-generated stuff, losing touch with authentic human experience. He calls AI alien forms of intelligence. They don't care if our society functions. They have different drivers.
And John Vervaeke takes this further, manipulation of our whole frame of reference.
Exactly. Vervaeke talks about AI manipulating the very background assumptions we use to see the world, making fake things seem important, even sacred. Plus, the real risk of conscious bias being baked into these systems by creators. Think about the Gemini image issues, algorithms actively shaping worldviews. That power, combined with the human desire for control, it's a dangerous mix.
It really feels connected to this idea of a modern meaning crisis, this sense of disconnection.
It absolutely is. Vervaeke argues people are increasingly disconnected from what's authentically real. Social media and now AI can act as these powerful but ultimately empty surrogates for real connection, real problem-solving together.
Like junk food for the soul. Looks good, feels momentarily satisfying, but lacks nourishment.
That's a great analogy. It hijacks our deep need for belonging without delivering the real thing. The shared vulnerability, the trust, the resilience built through actual human interaction. And as Sinek and Maté emphasize, this feeds insecurity, loneliness, stress, despair. In a world offering simulated realities and connections, staying grounded in the real deal becomes harder, but maybe more vital than ever.
Okay, this is heavy stuff. Which brings us right back to parenting. With all this change, uncertainty, manipulation risk, how on earth do we raise kids, babies, toddlers through this?
The Parenting in the Age of AI essay is blunt. It says the world's changing incredibly fast, but many parents underestimate it. We tend to default to 20th century parenting approaches.
Which might be counterproductive now.
That's the word they use. We can't prepare kids for jobs that won't exist or skills that get automated tomorrow. The essay warns against the extremes, either throwing every gadget at kids without guidance.
Which leads to addiction, online risks.
Right, or completely banning tech, which leaves them digitally naive and unable to manage it when they inevitably encounter it.
So neither extreme works. The middle path
is guided, mindful engagement. It means being active, intentional, setting boundaries on mindless scrolling, sure, but also encouraging productive uses, learning tools, coding, digital art, editing, and crucially, co-viewing, talking about what they're seeing and using, whatever their age.
And teaching them to be smart online citizens.
Yes, but updated for AI. Beyond kindness and privacy basics, it's now about understanding AI isn't human, not sharing personal stuff with chatbots, recognizing deepfakes, being skeptical about online info generally.
But the essay notes a big gap, right? Parents are worried, but not necessarily learning about this stuff themselves.
Exactly. It's vital that parents educate themselves, even just the basics. You can't guide your kids effectively through a landscape you don't understand at all. You need some foundational knowledge to set boundaries and have meaningful conversations.
Okay, so educate ourselves, guide their engagement. What about skills? If we can't predict jobs, what do we focus on?
The essay points to adaptability and lifelong learning as maybe the core meta skill, the ability to constantly learn, unlearn, relearn.
A growth mindset.
Absolutely. Fostering that belief that abilities aren't fixed, encouraging curiosity, learning beyond school, celebrating the effort, not just the A grade.
And unlearning. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's about cognitive flexibility, helping kids challenge old ways, find new solutions, asking open-ended questions, letting them experiment and fail, and critically, modeling it yourself. Let them see you learning, struggling, adapting.
This all feels very foundational, human. Like Dr. Gabor Mate's work on child development.
His work is incredibly relevant now. He emphasizes those non-negotiables for healthy development, authentic adults, unconditional connection, and lots of free play.
Spontaneous, imaginative play.
Yes, not structured activities all the time. He argues it's biologically crucial, like for other mammals. But our society often pushes academics over play, and gadgets can really interfere with that essential free play and brain development.
He connects the rise in kids' mental health issues partly to this lack of optimal conditions.
He is. Not a lack of parental love, and he says you can't love a child too much. But the conditions of modern life make providing those developmental necessities harder. The stress, the disconnection, the lack of community support.
And he distinguishes loving from mollycoddling.
Crucially, loving is connection and support. Mollycoddling, he suggests, is often about the parent's anxiety, trying to shield the child from all distress because the parent can't handle it.
But life has distress. Pain is unavoidable.
Exactly. The goal isn't to prevent all pain, which is impossible, but to give the child the secure base and emotional support to learn they can cope with it and move through it. Overprotection hinders resilience.
Which loops back to connection. Maté notes the world feels more stressful, more divided, yet people are more alone.
Yes, and he says something profound. Facing hardship communally is bearable, but when we're alone with it, it becomes less and less bearable. Loneliness isn't just sad. It makes us deeply vulnerable.
So community, connection. These are survival skills now. Resilience builders.
Fundamentally. The Harvard Happiness Study confirms it. Close relationships predict long-term health and buffer stress better than anything else. Sinek says friends are vital for navigating work and life stress. Building community isn't a nice-to-have. It's essential ballast in these stormy times.
Practically, for busy parents, what does that look like?
It starts with modeling it, prioritizing your own relationships, making an effort to connect with other families. Simple stuff. Park dates, potlucks, making your home welcoming, intentionally carving out time for real human connection, showing your kids it matters.
This idea of authenticity keeps coming up too. Maté, quoting Hamlet, "To yourself be true."
Yes, and the Jungian psychology hub source connects this to that deep, I'm not enough wound mini-carry.
From childhood.
Often, yeah. When love or safety felt conditional, or our true selves weren't seen or accepted, we learned to survive by performing, wearing a mask. The psyche remembers that, even if we deny it as adults.
And healing involves...
Acknowledging that wounded part, integrating it, which, interestingly, ties into the mirror principle, the idea that reality reflects our inner state. If we operate from a place of not enough, the world often seems to confirm it.
So finding our own inner grounding, our own authenticity, it's not just self-help, it impacts everything, especially parenting.
The sources suggest it's foundational. Maté talks about finding your own path to spirituality or inner rootedness. And maybe the key takeaway here is this work starts with the parent. You can't teach authenticity if you're performing. You can't guide your child to be rooted if you're constantly swayed by external validation yourself. They sense the disconnect. Modeling genuine, imperfect authenticity is the real lesson.
That's powerful. And in a world chasing AI perfection, does our human imperfection actually gain value?
Simon Sinek thinks so. He brings up wabi-sabi, beauty and imperfection. He contrasts machine perfection with handmade things, the value of human error. Why is a human chess game fascinating, even with flaws? Why are handmade goods prized?
The human touch, the story, the imperfection itself.
Exactly. Maybe in an AI world, our uniquely human traits, creativity, connection, vulnerability, imperfection, become not bugs, but features, our most valuable assets.
Does that answer Peter Diamandis' question about whether humans have a moat against AI?
Perhaps partly. He suggests liberal arts, religion areas dealing with deep human meaning, ethics, creativity, consciousness might be part of that moat. Things alien to AI.
So the goal of parenting shifts away from specific job skills.
And towards cultivating these deep, enduring human capacities. Adaptability, critical thinking, resilience, empathy, authentic connection, a strong sense of self rooted in reality.
And maybe, just maybe, if AI does free up our time, as some sources speculate,
we could use that time not just for more consumption, but for creativity, hobbies, strengthening those vital relationships, rebuilding community. Maybe fix the loneliness epidemic instead of just working more.
A challenging but hopeful thought. Let's talk risks, though. Trust, safety, these seem like huge hurdles.
They are. The sheer speed of the AI race creates risks. Tom Davidson on 60 Minutes mentioned the worry that companies might cut corners on safety to win.
Racing ahead without checking the brakes.
That's the fear. Plus, the risk of powerful AI being misused by bad actors is very real. Sam Altman and others admit this, and the huge challenge of alignment. How do we ensure these increasingly smart systems stay aligned with human values, stay under control? Can you teach AI morality?
Especially if they are alien intelligences, as Harari says.
Which circles back to trust. Harari argues the most critical task is strengthening trust between humans to navigate this.
But AI itself can erode that trust. Fake humans online.
Absolutely. Bots, deepfakes, they undermine our ability to know who or what we're dealing with, eroding social trust. Harari's simple first step: ban fake humans, make AIs identify themselves.
Seems sensible. Will companies do it?
There's skepticism. Profit motives might outweigh societal good. The godfather of AI interview voiced this concern. And Verbeek noted that even trying to remove bias is hard, and conscious bias from creators shaping algorithms is a definite risk.
Okay. Big risks. Manipulation, control issues, trust erosion. So given all this speed, the uncertainty, the risks, let's crystallize the actionable steps for parents again. What can we actually do?
Right. Let's summarize the takeaways from the sources. First, educate yourself, even moderately. Understand the basics of AI, its uses, its risks. Don't operate from fear or ignorance.
Get informed. Okay.
Second, guided mindful tech use. Set boundaries on passive consumption. Encourage creative use. Teach digital citizenship. Updated for AI skepticism, deepfake awareness, chatbot safety.
Be actively involved.
Third, foster adaptability and lifelong learning. Instill a growth mindset. Model it yourself. Encourage curiosity, effort, and the ability to unlearn and adapt.
Prepare them for constant change.
Fourth, prioritize the fundamentals. Authentic connection with them. Lots of free imaginative play. Help them develop their own authentic sense of self. Protect these essentials from being crowded out.
Back to basics, in a way.
Fifth, build community. Nurture relationships for yourself and your family. Model social connection. Isolation is vulnerability. Community is resilience.
We need each other.
Sixth, value humanness. Help kids appreciate creativity, imperfection, the process of learning and doing, not just the AI-generated outcome. Value the messy, unique aspects of being human.
Celebrate imperfection.
And finally, maybe most importantly, do your own inner work. Cultivate your own grounding, your own authenticity, address your own wounds. You can't lead your child somewhere you haven't started going yourself. Model rootedness, not performance.
Wow, that's a lot. but it feels right and urgent.
Absolutely. The sources are clear. This isn't sci-fi anymore. It's happening now. The pace is accelerating. Decisions are being made today that shape the future your toddler inherits. The time to engage, to adapt, to prioritize these things, it's now.
So here we are, facing this massive AI wave. It's changing work, the economy, yes, but maybe more profoundly, our minds, our connections, our reality, what it means to be human.
The future holds both incredible promises, abundance, solutions, and real dangers.
Yeah.
Disconnection, manipulation, loss of trust, maybe even loss of self.
And as parents, our role is suddenly much bigger than just getting them through school. It's about nurturing those deep human qualities, adaptability, creativity, empathy, critical thinking, authentic connection, inner grounding. These are the things that might actually be resilient in the face of, well, alien intelligence.
And it starts with us, right? Doing our own work, being authentic, being connected, being grounded ourselves. Because they learn who we are far more than what we say.
Which leaves us all with a deep question to sit with, doesn't it? In this age where algorithms edit our reality, where connection can be faked, where trust is fragile, where do you find your grounding? How do you help your child stay rooted in what's real, in human trust, in your own authentic self? Is the goal just to adapt, become that comfortable house cat, enjoying AI's gifts in an alien-built world? Or is there something more fundamentally human, more rooted, more authentic, that we need to consciously choose, cultivate, and protect right now for ourselves and for them?